See if they hear.
We are
Yeah, yep.
we're currently live streaming.
Can you hear me?
Yes, and
Okay, good.
we are live streaming. We're currently live streaming.
Can you hear me?
Yes, and
Okay, good.
we are live streaming.
Hi, Craig. Let's see who's on.
Morning, Tina.
Ooh, there you are.
Good morning, it's Walt. Good morning.
Hi, Walt. I can hear you.
Great. Thank you, finally. Wow.
Turn it up.
I'm halfway home.
And remember, it's recording and it's live.
Hi, Walt. I can hear you.
Very good.
No, I can't hear them very well.
We can't do it there. We've got to do it. You can't hear anything at all, right?
Oop, there we are.
Okay. We don't want to do it there. We've got to do it. We've got to do it on your major thing. But how do I get out of here? Let me just go like this because I don't want to disconnect you. Because it's your sound bar. Oh, wait a second. Do you have a sound bar? Right there in here. Right here. That is all the way up.
Of course, we're using a new computer this morning. Hi, Josh. It's Krista. Tina's on a Zoom right now, but she doesn't hear anything. I touched her sound bar under her monitor, turned it all the way up. Is there anything else I can do so she does have sound? Thank you. Bye. see, Tina, I'm thinking you don't have sound because they don't have everybody on, but I just want to make sure.
No, there is sound, I just can't hear it. I can hear them a little,
Oh, you can?
yeah, I just can't
Okay.
hear them loud
Josh is
enough.
coming right
Okay,
over.
great.
And then we've got to, I'm gonna write it down.
Hello. Are we
Morning,
good?
John.
Good morning. Sorry,
Yeah, I
Sheriff.
can't hear them. I can't hear them very well. I can hear them lightly.
Yeah, is that better?
Could someone say hi, please?
Yes, I did.
Hello.
Hello.
Is that louder than it was?
Yes. Can you make it louder?
Oh, that's gonna be loud.
Say hi again.
Hello.
Just-
It's set to the-
Okay. I think, I'm mute, correct?
No, you're on.
Oh, I'm on. Okay.
It's as loud as I can.
Should I
That's
mute?
louder.
Should I mute or should I just stay on?
Yeah, it's 100%.
Nick. Oh wait. That should be better.
Okay, could somebody talk for a second, please?
Can you hear me,
Hi,
Tina?
Tina.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you. Dustin, would you shut that on the way out? Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Those of you that are on, Simon sent out a copy of the survey. Did everyone get that? He sent it out around 10 o'clock.
Yes, I received it.
Yes, I got it.
Tina, I also sent out the proposal from the behavioral health providers that just went out like within the last 10 minutes.
Okay, great.
It's the same copy that I had sent you.
Okay, perfect.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Good morning.
How much snow are we supposed to get?
Just a few inches.
Okay.
Dustin.
That doesn't count.
Okay, I'm unmuted. They wanted me to unmute, so they want me to unmute, so I did do that.
Can hear you now. Thank you.
Okay. I just copied the reports that they sent, so.
Survey. John, you received this.
Yeah, I received the reports.
Perfect. Hi, Jessica. We'll just give it another minute. I see there's 15 people on. Hi, Simon.
Hello.
There's
Hello, everybody.
Hi.
Joyce.
Morning, Joyce.
Good morning.
Walt, you're there?
I am. Good morning, Jessica.
Good morning.
Tim, John. Okay, I think we'll get started. Good morning, everyone. Happy New Year. Again, I would like to thank everyone for the hard work that you're doing. I've seen so many emails between everyone. I certainly appreciate the effort that you're putting into this. Because we are live streaming and there may be new people, I would like to go through the committee again and just give a brief summary of yourself, and so that people know who the committee is comprised of. I'm Tina Molay. I am the supervisor for the town of Bovina. This is my 20th year, and I just entered my 5th year as chairman of the Board of Supervisors. So I'll start with Craig and we'll move on. When I call your name, if you would kindly just give me a summary so they know who you are.
Good morning, everyone. Sheriff Craig Dumont. I'm entering my 36th year in law enforcement, finishing up my first term as sheriff, and just excited to be here and see what everyone has to say as far as an update.
Thank you. Mr. Ameti?
Yep, Joe Armetti. I'm the public defender for Delaware County. I graduated from Siena College and Albany Law School. I was in private practice for about 28 years, and this is my 2nd year as public defender.
Great. Jen Cutting?
I'm Jen Cutting. I'm a CARC, a SERPA, and a rape crisis counselor, and I'm also a woman in long-term recovery, and I've navigated a lot of the services that the community and the county have to offer.
Great, thank you.
You're welcome.
John Grenier?
Good morning. I'm Reverend John Grenier. I am the Delaware County head chaplain at the correction facility, as well as a pastor in Oneonta, Semigar for the past 30 years. Been in the ministry for over 40 years. Enjoyed what I do in helping the public and people grow.
Great, thank you. Mary?
I'm the director of the Alcohol and Drug Abuse Council of Delaware County. We're an information, referral, and education service. We're a nonprofit, and we work with various communities in Delaware County.
Thank you. Cindy?
Hi, I'm Cindy Heaney. I'm the Director of Mental Health Services for Delaware County. I've worked for the county for 38 years. I beat you, Craig. And the last 10 have been as Director of Community Services.
Great, thank you. Jason?
I am Jason Craig. I'm a current department head with the Village of Walton at the wastewater treatment plant. I also serve on the Delaware County Fair Board and have for the last 15 years, 5 of which were secretary of the board.
Thank you. Supervisor Gladstone?
I'm Bud Gladstone from Andy's, the supervisor for 6 years now, also chair of the Public Safety Committee. My wife and I own a beef and hay farm in Andy's.
Thank you. Jessica?
Hi, I'm Jessica Farrell. I've lived in Delaware County for 32 years. I'm a painter. I'm also a member of the National Alliance on Mental Illness for Delaware and Otsego counties. And in 2017, a group of advocates and I started the Mental Health Justice Project because we were concerned about folks in the county with mental illness and the intersection of the criminal justice system and our concerns, especially since the sheriff has told us that 80% of the folks in the jail, the inmates, have some form of mental illness.
Thank you. Simon?
Yeah, hi, I'm Simon Purdy. I'm an assistant professor at SUNY Delhi in the criminal justice program. And I'm super excited again to be here working with all of you. And this is, I've said this before, but it's important work. So I'm glad we're all here doing it.
Great. Joyce?
I am Joyce St. George. I did some time in law enforcement. I'm out now. I spent 37 years training police and others in de-escalation techniques, hostage negotiations, and the like. I teach at the Criminal Justice Department at SUNY Delhi, and I am one of the coordinators of the food pantry in Margaretville. I'm also a member of the Catskill Addiction Coalition. And I'm thrilled to be here.
Mr. Hubbard.
Hi, I'm John Hubbard. I'm starting my 5th year as district attorney. I started with the DA's office back in 2000. And before that, I had a general practice in Stanford.
Deb?
Hi, I'm Deborah Myrup. I'm the clinic director for Alcohol and Drug Abuse Services, the outpatient clinic for the county. I've been working with the county with mental health and then the substance use clinic for 11 years. Been in the field working with both mental health and addiction for 22 years now. I've been here at the clinic for, I'm going on 3 years.
Perfect, thank you. The Undersheriff, Tim Buckley?
Tina, he's just observing. He doesn't have audio capability where he's at.
Then Mr. Keller, you're on.
Good morning, Walt. Walt, please, Tina. I'm virtual. I'm a Marine. I spent 31 years as fisheries manager for the DC Region 4, a chunk of the state bigger than the state of Connecticut, responsible for all aquatic resources. I was charter member of Homeland Security under Tom Ridge. I worked for FEMA for 10 years, doing disasters. I've worked in public service my entire life, both for pay and as a volunteer. Right now, I'm part of the Delaware County Suicide Prevention Network. I'm part of our ad hoc group, the Criminal Justice Legal. Jessica, help me. Criminal Justice Legal Project. Just the Mental Health Criminal Justice Legal Project. I also work with Cindy for the Community Services Board for a number of years, and I'm sure there's more. Thank you.
Thank you. Did I miss anyone? Okay, then we'll move right on. What I'd like to talk about first, and I believe that most of you did receive, Simon, around 10 o'clock, sent out a survey that was generated, putting all of your ideas together. And I'm just wondering, Simon, if you want to speak on that?
Yeah, absolutely. So John Hubbard and I, we compose currently the research subcommittee. If anyone else would like to join, we'd be more than willing to have you join meetings. We had a meeting last week, and we talked about basically the first survey that we sent out, right? The one that was predominantly open-ended questions. We got all the feedback that we talked about in the last meeting. That was a great start. I don't quite think it went to enough people to constitute having that knowledge of what our county thinks or what that relationship looks like with the Delaware County Sheriff's Office. So I think we need to try again with a slightly different approach. And John and I think we're on the same page there. So what John did is he sent me a copy of a survey that was used by the town of Sydney. And I got one from Joyce that was used in Walton, and I've seen several others. I helped create one for the village of Delhi with some students of mine that are on that committee. And it's fairly similar to those. The wording in the questions, I could share my screen if that's okay. If anyone has questions or people in the public want to see if the host could let me share my screen, that would be awesome. But basically, the survey is a little bit more quantitative than the last one we sent out. So there are questions that allow people to choose from different options. The big thing with this one is that it's really assessing two main variables. The first variable is trust and views of the Delaware County Sheriff's Office, right? That's one of our big things we're interested in. What is the community's perception? How do they trust? How do they feel about this office? And I hope, right, one of the goals of this committee is to help improve that relationship if it needs to be improved and strengthen it regardless. So that is the first set of questions they're talking about, basically, do you trust the Sheriff's Department? Do you think the deputies and officers are respectful? Those types of questions. These are pretty. All right, thank you. I can share my screen now. These are pretty standard, so I'll give that a shot. Now, if there's anything, so the one thing here is that, again, I don't work for the sheriff's office. So if there are terms, Craig, that I'm using here that just don't match up, like I said, officers/deputies, if you got a better term for that, I'd be more than happy to use that. So look through it. And if there's anything on there that you guys think, that doesn't quite sound right, let me know. I'm more than willing to make changes. So the first set of questions, that's talking about trust in views of the Delaware County Sheriff's Office. The cool thing about these is that these are pretty much exactly the same questions that were used in these other jurisdictions, these other municipalities. So what we might be able to do is at the end of this, we could actually compare ourselves to the county, for instance, to the village of Sydney, or to the town of cities. We could compare ourselves to the village of Delhi, right? We could make those comparisons and say, hey, the county sheriff's office is here, everyone else is here, whatever that might be. It would give us some more comparison ability because these questions are pretty well comparable. Questions about feeling safe. Let's see, and then, equitable treatment and things like that. And then also for each one of these blocks of questions, there is a feedback session or a feedback section where people can give, those open-ended responses. Like, for instance, I don't feel safe in Delaware County. Well, they might want to tell us why they said that. So they will have that opportunity as well. I would like to point out, this is just the print version of it that I drafted out over the last few days. I will gladly make this into an online survey that we can send around a bit more rapidly. So we don't have to be constricted with just this print format. This is one that I, again, pulled off the other survey that other municipalities have used. How have you contacted the Delaware County Sheriff's Office or been in contact with the office in the last 12 months? Again, here is one where we might add some options or even take some away. For instance, there was one I took away. I believe it was, officer in a school. And I don't think the Sheriff's Department, Craig, I don't think you do anything in schools, right? Or at least not on a regular basis.
No, we have a full-time school resource deputy.
Oh,
We have school substations in every single school building, all 15 of them in Delaware.
All right.
County.
Well, then I see. This is why I love having everyone here, because my knowledge is not quite as extensive. So we could add, in schools as an option there as well. So again, if you see any of these, you think, oh, there needs to be more options for how we contacted, we absolutely have the space to do it. The other one here is how people have reported and what their kind of feelings about the reporting of issues are. So this one, if you've reported an issue in the last 12 months, how satisfied were you with the resolution, right? How are we doing a good job of following up on things? This is one that I actually pulled off of a survey that I did for the SUNY Delhi, the State University Police at Delhi. And it was actually quite a useful variable to assess. Basically, were people happy with their interaction with the police department? So that one I did want to include. And again, open feedback. This is one. The other municipalities that have done this, and we already kind of did this work, the other municipalities that have included this question or a version of it, we're basically asking people, what do you think is a big issue in our community, right? Which of the following problems, pick your top 3, do you think are the most, the greatest concern in your community? We already did that with our first survey. So this is actually kind of cool. It allows us to take a different approach. We already know that the top 2 are mental health and substance use disorder. And thank you, Jen Cutting, for pointing out that I was using the wrong term there. So it's been corrected. So those are the first 2 on the list, but I changed the wording of this question a little bit because it's going to be an interesting variable to assess. So if you need, or if you had a need to report any of the following issues, what issue would you feel comfortable reporting to the Delaware County Sheriff's Office? This gets that, well, there's some stuff out there, and it's entirely possible we might find that people would report all of this stuff. We might also find that there's some things that people in our county just don't feel comfortable calling the Sheriff's Department about, and I want to know what those are, right? Those are those areas and those locations where education would be important. We know, for instance, nationwide that there is a vast underreporting of things like sexual assault and rape. It would be great to know how people feel about that, and maybe we could, increase, educational efforts or whatever it might be. So this could be a very, very useful set of information here. And we also then can basically add up people's responses to see, and you create a variable that says, here's how many issues that a respondent would be willing to report or feel comfortable reporting, and then we can use that for other comparisons as well. This is the one where I think we could either take away or add some things, and this is where I'm glad we're all working on this together. So I've got my highlighted question marks there. If there's anything else you think should be added to this list, let's add it, or if there's anything here which you don't think needs to be on it, we can take it away. So we can definitely have that conversation as well. Again, you know, there was some stuff on other surveys which I just didn't think was, well, other departments had taken off, and you know, who knows if there's stuff on here that doesn't need to be. So with especially those of you working in prosecutor's office, working in the sheriff's office, we should hopefully get a good list of the things that are regular concerns in our community. And again, our first survey allowed us that. And that's pretty much it as far as the questions go for how people feel about the department and you know, how they would report and interact with it. I think this will give us a very good set of information that we can, you know, make and compare and say, okay, well, this group over here, they think this, and this group over here thinks that. Is there a difference between them? What does that mean for our policy and procedure? So that is kind of the first set of questions there. Then I think the general, anything else you'd like to share, I want as much feedback here as possible, just like we did with that first survey. Then I have demographics. The first survey we sent out did not have demographics on it, which I think was something that, while it was a brief survey, didn't necessarily allow us to compare groups, right? And subgroup comparison is very, very important for especially a committee like this. One of our biggest tasks here is to see, are we equitably, you know, serving the entire community? Now, this survey wouldn't allow us to actually, you know, 100% say that we're, you know, for instance, there's no such thing as racial profiling, or there is, but it would allow us to say that, hey, maybe there's a group in our community that feels a different way about the sheriff's office. And if that's the case, there's your education, there's your policy that needs to be put into place. So I have included a number of demographic questions here, including how they connect with Delaware County. I know, Craig, I know you've had issue with especially that first survey, not wanting to have anyone who isn't a Delaware County resident full-time take the survey, and I appreciate that. But at the same time, you know, we have a lot of people. Like, for instance, we have a huge student body at the university I teach at. It's over around 3,000 students who are only temporary residents of Delaware County. That's half the year that, you know, and more than half the year that we have that huge population of a remarkably diverse student body that's on campus, that's on the community. So I want to know how they feel as well. Now, what this allows us to do is to filter out, right? So if all we want to know is how do the full-time residents of Delaware County feel about the sheriff's office, we can do that. So this will allow us to filter and potentially compare. So we've got resident, business owner. You know, it might be helpful to know if someone's a business owner and they feel a certain way about the sheriff's office, maybe we need to, you know, change policy or not. That could be, you know, useful as well. And then I also wanted to, and this is, I think, an important one, we're a huge county, right? We've got lots of villages, lots of municipalities. As we know, some of them have their own police departments. So it'd be nice to know if, you know, the person living in, you know, let's say Sydney feels a very specific way about their public safety in their community. It might not 100% be due to the Delaware County Sheriff's Department, right? It might be, and this is not to pick on, you know, in Sydney at all, but, you know, we want to be able to compare and filter down. So we will be able to, and I did this instead of the list because I was looking at the list on our Delaware County website. It's a very large list. So we'll allow people to write in where they live. How long have you been a part of the Delaware County community? Are new residents feeling a different way from people who've been here for, you know, 21 plus years? Gender and race, so we can make those group comparisons as well, and age. And I think that pretty well rounds out the demographics we should need to make some comparisons here. So that was a lot of stuff thrown at you, but if you guys have any questions, feel free. You know, we can talk about this here. We could, you know, shoot emails back and forth to make corrections, but, you know, let me know if there's anything that you think needs to be added to this. And I think if we get this out within the next week or so, we could have a pretty good response set by the next time we meet, and then we can inform, you know, for instance, the policy committee and all the other subcommittees that are working on this, give them the information that they need. So thank you all for hearing me out, and open the floor for discussion, I guess.
Good job. Great job.
Yeah, I really like this survey. I would like, if you have time, to review this as soon as possible.
Absolutely.
I would like to try and get it out tomorrow.
Okay, yeah. So I could put it together into an online survey today. That'd be really take me very little time, and then we could get that out right away. The other thing that I want to mention here is you know, for instance, I could put myself as the contact person. I'll probably just put an email there instead of putting down my my cell phone, being out of the office and working from home now. So email I think would work. If we wanted to have someone else who was the contact, that would be fine as well. If we're going to do paper surveys here, we need to figure out how we're going to get them back. I know other municipalities have like put them in local businesses and had a little like folder to put them in, and then you go around and collect them. We could do that. Again, we're a huge county, so perhaps with our diverse group of folks here working in different offices and areas, we could do something like that. And I want to have the print version, available. The other thing I want to point out here is I'm hopefully we'll have a Spanish language translation of this that will be available as well. I know we have a large Hispanic population in several kind of enclaves in our county, and I want to make sure those are covered as well. So we will have a Spanish language version, but it will take me a few more days to get that translated and uploaded. So I will have that, and as soon as that's out, we can basically make that an option for the online survey and an option for the paper survey as well. But yeah, Tina, I don't think we could, there's no problem getting this out tomorrow.
Do you feel in the area where you're talking how long anybody's been living in the county? I feel as a lifetime community resident or Delaware County resident, probably Craig does too, I feel you need a lifetime resident in there too, because that gives us another comparison too of just what people that have lived here their whole life, how they actually feel.
Absolutely. I like that.
Simon, can you email me a copy of it? I didn't receive it.
I absolutely can, Jessica.
Thank you.
I basically copied an email list. I don't know if you were on it or not, so I will absolutely get that to you.
Thank you.
Because of our time frame, I'm thinking that.
Can I bring up one thing, Tina? Sorry.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I'm sorry to interrupt. My apologies. The only feedback I would have, I think it's a great looking survey. The only feedback that I would have would be to somehow in the beginning part of the survey really emphasize somehow, because as much emphasis as we did before with the previous survey, that this is just about the Delaware County Sheriff's Office.
Yep. So
this isn't about the New York State Police. This isn't about the SUNY cops or your home community police back in Poughkeepsie or New York City or whatever. It's about the Delaware County Sheriff's Office, because we saw in the first survey that there were some things that were very clearly attributable to other agencies, and no, we'll never be able to prevent all of that because some folks just don't pay attention like they should. But we want to emphasize on that this there's a and I've heard it time and time again, not so much recently, so hopefully we're doing a better job at it, that the sheriff somehow has some sort of control or leadership over the local police agencies in the county. And we need to somehow just again reemphasize that this is just about the sheriff's office and not about other police agencies.
Yeah, thank you, Craig. And I definitely took that into account. Every single question says Delaware County Sheriff's Office. So I didn't leave a single question on there that was general.
Right, but if there's something in the beginning, in the opening, that can just emphasize that a little bit more, I'd be happy to do that if you want some help, but I'm sure you can come up with something.
Yeah, I can add that wording. Sure thing.
Okay, thank you.
To that point, if I may, Craig, because I agree with where Craig is coming from. One of the questions that and I don't want to get too deep into this, but one of the questions that I think might go into number 6 is a question about police misconduct.
Okay.
Because that's something that we can then follow up on. I feel like, to Craig's point, there are times when people don't know who they can speak to, if a local police officer or, whoever. And most of the public, as Craig says, doesn't really think, to separate these departments. They put them all in one big basket. So I do think that part of what we're looking at is whether or not people do see police misconduct, even if they feel like the sheriff's department is good. Maybe they've had an incident that they, were holding back on. But I do agree with Craig, if there's a way that we can put something in there that there are several departments in Delaware County, we are looking at the sheriffs.
Yep. I can absolutely add that.
Okay.
Simon, this is Walt. Again, number 6. I would, if this were my survey, I would order these listing in terms of what Craig's sense is in terms of, he told us in the get-go that, you know, mental health issues have increased 350% or 300%, whatever. I would ask that he order this in terms of what he's seen relative to the executive order, because in my understanding of what we're supposed to be doing here is to provide input on recommendations to write a plan. And you know, Craig was really clear in that thing. He, you know, and you've listed the top two right from the get-go.
Yep.
But for example, this domestic violence, I think that was another one, and that's, you know, so I would ask, and it shouldn't be real hard, for some of these might not even be sheriff's office things.
Yep.
You know, I'm not sure. So I would ask that they be ordered in that regard, because what we're supposed to be doing is to provide input to take care of those problems.
Yep.
And a new plan. Right.
Sure. Yeah. So Craig, if you wouldn't mind going through that list on number 6 and maybe just kind of giving me a 1 through however many, you know, and tell me which one, how they should be ordered, kind of in the priority of what your office deals with. I think that's a great suggestion.
Okay, I'll email it to you.
Okay. Thank you, Craig. And thank you, Walt.
I just have one question.
Yeah.
So after this survey goes back and goes out and we get it back, we are then going to use this to compare to other towns in our county's surveys to determine what really is our top priority and go from there. And then are we going to devise a plan from this survey? Is that how this is going to go? Or
So it is comparable. I think the point I was making there is that other municipalities have used something very, very similar to this. So it is going to be comparable. If that's a route we want to take, we got to get in touch with, you know, those towns and villages. But yeah, I think when this comes back, what I'll do is I'll run through the numbers. I'll make some charts and tables, send them out to everyone. And what we'll have then is, you know, for instance, if we have a policy committee that wants to focus on, well, what do we do if someone reports police misconduct as far as policy goes? We'll have the numbers there for how many people would be comfortable reporting that. And we could get some idea, et cetera, as well as, you know, mental health crisis, substance use disorder. If we have a bunch of people who are saying, I do not feel comfortable reporting that, I think that's probably something, Jen, that your committee would want to know, right?
Right.
That you probably want to know that.
I think the fact that the survey echoes other surveys from other towns is actually a very efficient and important place to get data from, because like I've been saying all along, we can make all the suggestions in the world, but if we do not have the data and to back up what we're suggesting and what we're saying, we really have a basket of nothing.
Yeah.
So I think it's important to compare these very thoroughly to other towns, because in a sense, then it gives us a starting place for the entire county.
Yeah, absolutely. And I don't know where the original survey came from, but a lot of, so again, I've worked with, seen them from 2 different municipalities, from Sydney and Delhi Village, that have pretty much the same exact questions that are being asked, which is awesome, which means we have some comparison. So my wording is slightly different, but they should still be totally comparable.
And Tina, my question would be, in terms of distributing these, one of the recommendations that I have is that we should be sending some hard copies to, I know my food pantry would be a great one to send it to, you know, to have people fill it out, and the hospital and shelters. Do you think that there's a way that, I don't know what the Board of Supervisors does in this respect, but is there a way to get these out to different villages and different places within villages that people congregate in that are not ordinarily like stores?
Well, what I was thinking is that we regularly distribute information to the entire Board of Supervisors, which covers all 19 towns. So I think this online, or the supervisors or their town clerks can print them out and have them available. You know, if they want to distribute to the businesses or have it at their town hall, or maybe they would even put on their website that it would be available. I think there's a whole host of ways to get this out. I do think that the online is the best and quickest way, especially with the timeline that we have. You know, I was hoping that we'd be able to send this out and get this back after about a week or 2. So
Yeah,
that
I think 2 weeks would be pretty sufficient. If we need to go on a little bit longer, I'd be more than happy. We can have like an initial report and then ones that have come in after. But yeah, I think 2 weeks is typically a pretty good. We'll send out some reminders, right? So I think we could blast this on the county social media, our committee's page, the sheriff's page. We could do that as well. I'm not, again, this is a general community survey, so we're not going to do a sample that will limit some of our statistical comparison, but not by that much.
What about places like Delaware Opportunities?
Yep.
Like I would have no problems going and speaking to Adult Protective Services and see if they can give it to people that when they come into the shelter, Safe Against Violence, because these are all people that this will primarily have a personal effect on, in my opinion. I have no problem personally giving out the survey myself. I could take it to a few people in other places that would be able to really shed some light on some of these pertinent questions as well. So
Sure,
I'm all
absolutely.
for it.
Yeah, I'd be all for word of mouth as well. You know, and again, with our current situation and the kind of the way things are now, I think the more that we reach out to the people we know, you know, Craig, you obviously have a lot of contact with people, you know, throughout the county, you know, so getting, you know, sending out emails, you know, social media, and as well as I can change the wording at the beginning to say, if you need a print copy of this, you know, shoot me an email and I'd be more than happy to send you one, or, you know, mail it to you, whatever. And we could go that way as well.
Can
I
we
just
send
have,
it to the media? You know, to the local newspapers and ask them to put out some kind of a public notice on it?
Well, I know we would put out a press release.
Okay, good.
That would detail this and where to get it and how to get it and where it's located.
Yeah. Yeah. Could we park it on the county's website and just have them, you know, shoot right to there? And I think we could have the print version and the online link to it. And I think that'd be perfect.
Great.
As far as the print,
I just have
you know, printing off a hard copy and there's got to be a centralized repository somewhere.
Yep.
You know, so there needs to be. I would guess it would be the board with the chairman at the board of supervisors.
Okay.
That would be my guess.
I just have an observation, if I can just put this in here. For number 6 is, I know the sheriff was asked to number them.
Mm-hmm.
Remember, this is not a power of suggestion, but we're asking them to tell us their need. By us putting a number on it and putting it in order, we're suggesting something that, you know, if the sheriff is going to put a number on these things, then I think it needs to say the Delaware County Sheriff's Office feels that these are the issues in priority. Where do you feel your need is to report on any of these following issues? Because again, we don't want the power of suggestion. We're asking them to give the survey. We don't want it seem like we're trying to stack the deck when they take this survey. We want them to be open as they can. So it's like a test a teacher gives, in a sense. He doesn't put all the correct answers or whatever in the beginning. He scatters them all over the place and their knowledge is going to be there. That's just my observation. I don't know if that matters, but I would be against numbering.
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
let me turn that around, though.
Yeah.
Let me turn that around, because we know Craig's told us what's gone on with this COVID situation. So we know the top 3, okay, and they're there. So if whoever's filling out the survey doesn't fill out the top 3, they fill out a whole bunch of other stuff, like, for example, traffic issues or something else that's, you know, very, very common. We get the sense that, hey, this is even worse than it is. And the stuff that we're going to solve here, we're trying to solve, we already know what the problem is. So if you turn it around, you do as I suggested, it gives you more information. It says it's underreported. It's even worse than what Craig already knows, because he's addressing this issue, trying to address it right now. Okay, that's the other side of the coin. That's
so,
a reason.
So Walt, I definitely see. I see where you and John are both coming from on this. I'm not asking folks, and this question doesn't ask them to rate them, like in terms of importance. It's basically just saying, if you had to report one of these issues, how comfortable would you be reporting it? Yeah. I am totally fine with scattering this about, with leaving it, you know, either random or listing it, because they're going to go through all of these issues and check all the ones that they want. So I don't necessarily think the order here is the most important thing, but I could potentially see that it would have. So I think, you know, thinking about this more, John, I think your suggestion of not having a listed order, not putting any kind of preconceived notion on it, I think that's fine. I'm fine with that. I don't think it's gonna, you know, change the overall result that we're getting. So either way, I think it's gonna be it's going to be a question that people are going to go through, and they can select all of them that they feel comfortable with, not that they have to choose their top 3, and we're putting the top 3 right there already.
Right. I think we're kind of overthinking it
Yeah.
a little bit. We're really trying to like get into it, and people are just like, oh, a survey. Okay. So I don't really per se know if people are going to stress out the way we are over numbering things or not numbering things. I just am really hopeful that people will be open-minded and answer the survey no matter which way they get to it. So we get something back. I don't think we really need to overthink so much about numbering and things of that nature. Just my opinion.
Thanks, Jen.
I'm good with that.
Okay, anything else on this? So basically, Tina, I'll clean this up. I'll make those changes that we talked about, and I will get you the print copy and the online link ASAP here today.
Oh, hey, Simon.
Yeah.
On number 3, you say something about visited
Yeah.
to report something. Should we just say contacted, because a lot of people don't go there, they call?
Yeah, absolutely. So that was I think it was on there. So again, this is one that came from another department that had done it. So if there's any, I don't know if anyone stops by on a regular basis to report stuff. So yeah, I mean, we could do report an issue, over the phone or some other way.
I agree with Joyce. I think it should just be contacted.
Okay, so do you want to take all the visit off of there then? Like I visited the office to do this?
Okay. The majority of our complaints come in because we're such a vast county, either by phone call or email or tip line or whatever.
All right, absolutely.
Okay, that's all
I would also wonder with number 6, if there are additional factors that might play into comfort in reporting a crime, whether or not the person is a victim or a witness, or whether or not it's their next door neighbor or something they observed in public, if they personally know the victim or the offender. I don't know if it could just be an additional comment box. I think you have something like that in there, but if you expand on if there are elements outside of just comfort with the police department that influences their decision.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. And I was probably overthinking this last night a little bit too much. We could make this a very long set of questions here that would go into all those issues. I think having the open-ended feedback, and I'm just adding a little statement there that basically says, if you have any additional feedback, including why you chose the options that you did, feel free to share them here. And I think that, from my experience with asking questions like this, people will fill in that blank and they'll say, oh, I didn't choose that I would be comfortable reporting sexual assault because I am a victim and I don't feel comfortable doing that. And then we would know. So, it's no guarantee that we'll get that feedback for everyone, but I think it's a good place to start. And I don't want to make this such a long survey that people are going to, look at it and throw it in the trash.
Right.
Simon, could you just email me it right now?
Yes, I will right now.
I can't follow it at all.
Sorry. Yeah, you're coming to you.
Thank you.
I do agree with what Deb is saying. However, though, I think she brings up a valid point. I mean, there's a number when you're talking about sex cases.
Yep.
They're underreported just by the nature of the case. However, a lot of times they're not reported because they're afraid to report them to the police. It's because they involve someone they intimately know. And here in Delaware County, many times it's a family member or a close friend. So I think that's a good point that Deb's making. They may not necessarily be fearful to report it to the police because of the police. It may be because of external reasons why they don't report.
Very good point.
How about this? Why we could make another question below this that would say something to the extent of, if there is an issue you would feel uncomfortable reporting to the the Delaware County Sheriffs, why? And then we could have a list like, if I knew the victim, know the perpetrator, so we could come up with a list like that. Would that help with filling that in?
I think it would. Thank you.
Okay, so let me wordsmith that a little bit today, and I'll send this out for everyone to have some comment on before the final copy.
Are there any other comments regarding the survey? Because like I said, we would like to get this out by tomorrow if possible.
I just think it's a really good survey.
Yeah, I agree.
It's going to help us a great deal. And it's going to help the sheriff's office ultimately, because you're going to know more about the entire community and how it's viewing the sheriff's department.
I certainly appreciate the survey, Simon. I like how concise and quick it is actually, and it's not long and drawn out. So thank you for that. I think that, we've heard the term survey fatigue, and I think people will get, multiple, 100 questions on something. They say, forget it. I don't even want to do it. So I think this way will definitely generate the best response. So thank you.
And I think that what the committee can do, to Jen's point before, is really use these 2 weeks as opportunities to visit different places and just let the leadership, whether it's a food bank or a shelter or a hospital or a school, let them know how important this is for us and ask them to help us. I think that'll help us get a lot more feedback than just sending it out. And
Would it hurt to put it in the ask the inmates that are in the jail to fill it out?
That would be interesting.
This survey isn't about the corrections facility, so I don't want to get off into the weeds on that.
No, I know that, but they are victims.
Yeah, I understand that, but the problem with that, Pastor, is that we're going to get off into the weeds as far as rating the corrections experience, and that I'm not saying that it would. In my opinion, I don't think it will be rated any differently, to be very honest with you. But I want to keep the emphasis on the law enforcement division because that's what the executive order is charging us to do. And
but if they were in the community, wouldn't they fill out one? I mean,
Sure.
I understand what you're saying, and I'm not trying to demograph those that are there and those that aren't. But I mean, if they are a resident of Delaware County, question could just be asked in the correctional facility, hey, would you like to fill one of these out? And then leave it like that. It's their choice. Just like anybody who's going to take this survey, it's their choice. If they choose to do it, they choose to do it. We just can't be partial or slighted if we know that report came from an inmate. And that would be kind of hard for the COs because they do handle it. The anonymity is not there. So maybe it's not a good idea. But if we do it and we do provide it, an envelope that they can put the remarks in, a sealed envelope, back in a folder, a sealed envelope, and then this is taken out and given to you or given to somebody that doesn't have connection. So that way they can say, oh, that's so-and-so's writing. But I just throw that out because when they go into the jail, a lot of times I am the first person, not always, but they set up a consultation in a sense with me. I like to visit the pastor, the chaplain, and I sit with them and I hear them out. But after a little time later, I think they sort things out over time as things settle, as whatever substance they are influenced by or whatever kind of gets out of their system. I think then rational thinking is no longer there and they start thinking reasonably. That's just a thought.
So if I would like to speak on this as a former inmate myself, I think in one sense, they absolutely deserve the right to be involved in a survey like this because they are the people that we are primarily trying to make a difference for, if you will. But I also agree with John. I think you are absolutely 100% right. And I feel like I know for myself personally, when I first came in, this would not be an appropriate thing for me to go through because I was still so angry. But as the same way that the sheriff also says that it is not about the jail. And unfortunately, I feel personally, I know I would have confused corrections officer with sheriff because they wear a similar uniform. And unfortunately, feelings that you have towards corrections officers when you're in that situation and then when you are in the free world are completely and totally different because you are in a different headspace. Maybe a way that we could involve people from that community is to have it done during treatment court, to maybe make the survey available to parole and probation so they can give it to their people. So these are people who are not in the moment of it and maybe they are a little more far removed and they don't cross their opinion on jail and what is happening in the community. But I think it is very, very important to open it up to that community because these are most of the people who are involved in police action. So I think maybe the jail might be too new of a situation because anger is really a huge part when you are newly incarcerated. Personally, I can say that. So maybe the option is like probation, parole, treatment court. I don't know. I just know from firsthand experience, I would have filled out the survey in a very angry sense during that first time of incarceration for myself.
All right, I agree in some ways with what Jen's saying. However, you know, there are other factors I think that'll muddy the waters here. You know, I've got a lot of federal inmates in here. All right, they're not going to have any contact with the Delaware County Sheriff's deputies. I've got inmates from other counties that don't have it. So I think it's gonna open up that can to muddy the waters. Really, what we're trying to do here. Because a number of the inmates aren't necessarily county residents or had any contact with Delaware County deputies.
Yeah, and
So,
Craig, that's a great point. I think the thing to point out here is that, you know, this is a not necessarily the right tool to do that. There could be a tool created. There could definitely be something, but I don't think this is it. As far as the way that the questions were designed and intended audience. Now, granted, I do think that's an important subpopulation to talk to, but I just don't think this is the methodology to do that with.
Right. I mean,
if we decide later on to do it, hey, I'll go, you know, we could do interviews, we could do all sorts of stuff that would probably get better information or more contextual information.
The takeaway is, you know, Scott Gluckert is a member of this group. Unfortunately, he was able to attend the call today, but I'm sure that he would be more than willing to circulate this amongst probationers and capture that population as well.
Maybe I could potentially put some kind of filter on there too, if we want to be able to narrow down that subpopulation.
And Simon,
the other point that I want to make is, and again, it's contrary to Jen, and I'm not trying to diminish what you're saying, Jen, is that, you know, the majority of the people that we deal with are not incarcerated. Okay. So 80% of the people, more than 80% of the people that my deputies have contact with will never become involved in the criminal justice system. Right, we're out there helping people. We're answering complaints. We're responding to domestic incidences. We're assisting with overdoses. We're changing tires. So we're doing all sorts of things. So at least 80% of the people that we have contact with do not, there's not a criminal justice component to that. So I'm just throwing that out there, that I think that, you know, we need to stay focused on the community at large. Yes, we definitely want to take into consideration the opinions of people that have been criminal justice involved. But I think as you said, Jen, from a community standpoint now, they're out, they've had time to process and think about the context of everything.
Yes, we want a fair and balanced survey. I don't believe any of my clients that are sitting in the jail right now would answer the survey in an unbiased fashion. I think they would look at it as a way to lash out against law enforcement in general. And as Craig says, most of my clients that are in the jail right now weren't put there by the sheriff's office. It was another police agency that interacted with them. So I think it would skew the survey if we had inmates answer it.
Simon, can you reach out within SUNY to make sure that students are aware of the questionnaire?
Yeah, absolutely.
So are there any other comments on the survey? Okay, Simon, so you'll go ahead and...
Yep, I'll make some changes, draft it up, and I will send it to the committee first to look over real quick, and then Tina, it'll come right to you.
Perfect, thank you. And I'm looking at then, if it's a 2-week, then we would have a February 2nd deadline.
Okay.
They have to be back.
Sure.
Everybody's in agreement with that?
Just take a look and see what day that is. Tuesday, yep, that'll be fine.
Okay, now I'd like to go on to any other ideas that anyone from the committee has on recommendations that could possibly go into this plan.
That would be me. I sent a proposal, and I don't know, Amber, if you can put that on the screen. This is actually a program that already exists in Essex County, and Essex is very similar to Delaware in regards to geography and sparsity of population. And it's a kind of a referral system that goes between the sheriff and behavioral health providers that are designated, and that could be treatment, that could be peers, that could be prevention. So I put this proposal together that kind of highlights some of the bullet points in regards to what Sheriff Dumond was saying in regards to 80% of his work is out in the community, where the sheriff can make a decision that someone with a behavioral health condition could benefit from a referral. So Essex County developed this with a HIPAA compliant web link that we could create with demographics so that the sheriff's department, when they're out in the community, if they encounter somebody with a concern that they feel needs some kind of referral, would be sent to a variety of determined emails that would triage where that might go, whether it was substance use or mental health. So it would be who would make the referral, what kind of situations would warrant making a referral, mental health conditions, where the person's ability to work or carry out their daily activities, recurrent use of drugs and alcohol that lead to same disruption. And Sheriff, I'm sure you can identify those repetitive calls to the same address or the same person where a situation may not warrant either arrest and or hospitalization, but is still very concerning. So I just wanted to present this and see what people think. It's a one-way referral system. It's not a huge lift. It doesn't cost a lot of money. It's not a crisis referral. It's more of a warm handoff where the sheriff would be able to make that connection. And then there would be follow-up from the behavioral health system to that person to reach out to them and hopefully engage them in some way that would kind of break this cycle. So,
Cindy, do you have the staff to handle what may come out of this?
well, it wouldn't necessarily be treatment. It could be peers, which is what I'm thinking, or prevention. I mean, it would be kind of looking at the personnel that wouldn't necessarily have to be professional that would be able to do this. This is really where the peer work is kind of going in regards to out in the community, connecting with somebody who's been there. So it doesn't necessarily mean it would be treatment at this point. So I guess the devil's in the details in regards to how we make it work.
So are you, Cindy, are you thinking about recovery coaches or peer counselors?
Yes.
So we would need to increase the number of recovery coaches and peer counselors in the county. And who would they, we have two now under CAC and Margaretville Hospital.
Well, and Mary Rosenthal has some peers that she works with.
There's more than you think in the community. I know probably about 15 to 20 of them personally, because I myself am one. There is a tremendous amount of them, and the peer movement is new. So there are a lot that are unemployed and looking for employment. And there are a ton of just, regular peers, but then there's CARCs, there's SERPAs, there's forensic peers, there's mental health peers. There's a ton of them available. So the need for them, and finding them, it will be very, very, very easy to find them. Very easy.
The question is more about who oversees it. And I think that might be a question for Cindy and Mary and
well, this is just a proposal. We really haven't moved forward with it.
Right.
It would be getting together and kind of sorting out all the details in regards to how this might work. I'm just presenting it as an option that I think is doable in this county. And we would have to develop that infrastructure to make it work.
We had a police forum on Friday, and Craig was part of it, as was Greene County and Ulster. Greene County seems to be doing something similar to what you're talking about. Part of what they do is they do follow-up calls within, I think it was 48 hours or 72 hours of any kind of a mental health disorder or mental health crisis that they police responded to, and follow up. And they do have recovery coaches, peer counselors who attend to the people. So it seems like that's something that departments are lending themselves to at this point. But one of the big issues I remember, Craig, you and I talking about is how much time deputies spend just transporting people to different locations. And I wonder if that's all part of this, that, you know, if you had a peer counselor or recovery coach, that they could then transport somebody to Binghamton or wherever they have to go. Can that be folded into this?
The law doesn't allow for that.
So it
Okay,
has to be
so
a-
you're talking about a change in the mental hygiene law.
Yeah.
All right, so that just wouldn't work. The only thing that would help in that endeavor is if we happen to have some sort of, which is never, it's a pie in the sky idea. If we had a crisis center here that could evaluate people and go from there, but that's not going to happen. I'm just being realistic here.
I think where the opportunity would be for that population that the sheriffs transport to the hospital that are not placed in the hospital and then are back in the community. That would be a population that would benefit from some sort of connection to services, whatever that might be. One of the things in talking with Essex County when they developed this program is that this is not a population that's engaged in services. This is a population that's out in the community that has never really even been involved in treatment. So having peers be that bridge enables engagement where there may have never been any before and possibly break cycles that we haven't been able to get to yet. So,
which is a lot of what Jen is doing now.
Yes.
And I think this is a real tangible program that could work easily put in place and capture that audience that Cindy's talking about, that, you know, let's prevent those 941 transports from happening in the first place, you know. So there's many times that deputies are engaged with people in the community that don't rise to the level of those crisis situations, but they know there's a problem there. So if they could make the referrals and someone could reach out, hopefully we could prevent a lot of these things from happening altogether.
That'd be great. And do you think that there might be, Cindy, you might know this better than I do, certainly. You were talking about the repetitive calls, and one of the things that's been concerning to me is recidivism. And I'm just wondering if, I remember the Department of Justice having grants for programs on recidivism back in the day. And I'm just wondering if that's something that you guys would consider as, you know, having some kind of funding for just to tackle maybe the 5% that you guys see all the time, so that you can actually break that cycle. Do you have experience in that?
Well, I'd say usually where that breaking of the cycle happens is with arrest and some sort of consequence. But, you know, many of this population is not getting arrested. So certainly I'd say that we're intervening early on in the cycle of criminal justice, hopefully, so it doesn't progress. As we know, especially with substance use disorders, it gets progressive, so that if there's not legal involvement in the first couple of phone calls or involvements, then it will be subsequent to that. So I think there certainly is an opportunity to reduce that kind of cycle, for sure.
But you don't know any programs around?
No.
Okay.
No.
It's good to research that with.
Well, if you look at sequential intercept mapping, we did, I'm going to say 3 years ago. It's a SAMHSA evidence-based practice where it looks at the different intercepts where someone with mental health or substance use goes through the a linear involvement with criminal justice from crisis all the way to post parole and probation. And this proposal really is on the front end. So hopefully you prevent some of the further involvement with criminal justice, arrest, incarceration, things like that. So it's developing the infrastructure, which we don't have right now, but this problem isn't going away. It's just escalating. So looking at things that could possibly work to help. So,
Cindy, I have a question for you.
Sure.
Have you had the opportunity to look at the actual referral form that's mentioned in the?
We can design it ourselves. I do have a template of what Essex County has.
Yeah.
But we can design it for our needs too. But yes, it's mostly demographics. And then it's, you can design it whichever way you want. So
How burdensome is it going to be for an officer who's maybe has his or her hands full with the, you know what I mean?
I guess Craig can answer that more than I. I mean, I think I would say that some of these officers are probably pretty frustrated dealing with the same population all the time.
Yep.
It would be having access to the internet and being able to just put that information in. So I guess we would have to kind of look at that. Essex County is finding it very helpful, but I'm just presenting it as a proposal. We can make it as simple or as least amount of information, just name and contact and concern. That would, you know, it could be as involved or as least involved as possible.
Yeah, a brief web-based form I don't think would cause any undue burden, John. I think it will be well received because the deputies are frustrated with the number of, especially the increased number of these mental health calls and not having enough tools in their toolbox to address them. So I think they would actually look at it as a positive. But I agree with you. You know, as brief as possible, web-based. Their cars are rolling offices. They have internet connectability to everything that they're doing right there in the car. So I don't see it as a huge burden on them.
Cindy, that sounds great. And I was at that workshop that you put together, and harken back to my mantra: mental illness is not a crime, and I can see it saving. A huge amount of man days, of county resource, and really helping the situation. This sounds really, really good, and it's halfway started. I mean, some of the groundwork's been laid up there in Essex County, with what you've shared. So I think this ought to be in the plan. I think this needs to be part of what Delaware County does to address this problem. And also, I want to support the peer part that Jen's been talking about. I think that's the answer to a whole bunch of stuff. It's really helpful. If non-peers are talking to somebody with a situation, there's no identification. There's a barrier there. I think people dealing with people with problems have to know what they have to have lived those problems. At least that's my belief. In any case, I don't think it works when you have. It's not something you can get from school. It's something you get from life, and I think it's the answer. Part of the answer.
Part of the answer. Yeah.
I second that.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Right, so we'll take that into consideration when the plan is drawn up. Great suggestions, Cindy. Are there any other suggestions?
I have a concern. I have an additional concern nobody's talked about. I mean, we've been discussing mental health and substance use disorder and stuff. It's really come to the fore that there's a real opportunity nationwide for domestic terrorism. We've had two situations in Delaware County having to do with the Muslim community. And I'm a mitigator, okay? I'm anticipating problems. And that anticipation came to life with what we saw on the 6th of January. There's cancer all over this country, and you never know when it's going to rear up. So I'm kind of wondering, what's in place now, what the county sheriff's office relationships are with, national security, the troopers, that kind of stuff. And if there's nothing there, I think it better go there.
I can assure you, Walt, that I'm on regular phone calls. I'm a member of various FBI counterterrorism and the federal and state level anti-terrorism groups. I'm an active member on those committees, and I'm in regular contact with those threat assessments.
And you're comfortable, it's real time. I mean, you're plugged in like anything that was going on relative to the possibility of the state capitol being harassed or whatever. You're right there. I mean, you're getting that information as soon as it's out.
We're meeting on a weekly basis at this point. However, if something were to become imminent, it would be real time. It would happen.
Okay, you're alerted then.
I would be notified as it happens, or as they gather that intelligence.
Okay, and does that show in the policies and procedures manual now, or do you have something in there that shows that? I haven't gone through it obviously yet. Is there one sub? If it's not, it might be prudent to put something in there. Just to, I don't know how long the descriptions are, the narrative for each of those subcategories that you have, but if there's nothing there now, I think it's advisable to put it in there.
No, we definitely we're engaged. Our policies and procedures drive all this stuff. But no, I mean, to make it very simple, I have a direct connection, and I can't go off into the weeds, No,
you shouldn't. You shouldn't.
And
no.
I can't. But I have a direct connection to any threat, whether it be on the national, state, or local level. I'm briefed on that on at least a weekly basis. I receive threat assessment briefings at least weekly. But if something were to become imminent, whether it be on the national, state, or local level, I get that information in real time.
Okay, great. And if what you just told me, if it's not in that thing, if you could put that in words and stick it in there, that'd certainly satisfy my paranoia.
Okay, I'm sure that it's encapsulated in a number of our policies, but I'll make sure that I review and make sure. Well.
Okay, super. Thanks. And with no, I understand with no specifics, obviously.
And Tina, to your question, two things. One, I really feel like I'd like to see the results of the survey before I make too many recommendations, because some of them could already be in place, or, we could find out so many other things that might change how we view things. But the one thing I think I've been hearing Craig talk about for a long time now is the civil service testing, and the fact that he feels powerless in hiring practices. And I think we need to look at that to give Craig some more flexibility about who he's hiring and who he's not hiring, and what limits the civil service is placing on police around here or statewide. So I don't know, Craig, if you want to respond to that, but it seems like that's something that we can address to the state and suggest to them that maybe they need to review civil service applications.
Certainly, I think, I would like to see it be made part of the plan. That this committee supports changes in the New York State civil service process, and I can assist with that verbiage when it comes. But yeah, it's a state problem. It's not anything that can be addressed or handled on a local level here. We have been meeting again. We've been talking about this for several years now at the State Sheriff's Association, and we're meeting right now as we speak. Last week, or there's meetings again this week. We're trying to meet with representatives from civil service to get them to, if the governor really wants meaningful change, and really wants to diversify workforces, well, then the only way that's going to happen is through civil service change. And so we're hoping to strike the iron while it's hot. He's saying that he wants all these things to happen. Well, let's see. So we're going back at it again and approaching the governor's office and New York State Civil Service with all these recommendations in regard to changes. Some of them are discussions so far. They've still been unbending on, but there's been others that they're flexing now where in the past they haven't. So I don't want to jinx it, or we're cautiously optimistic. We're making some progress. Hopefully we can get to the point where before this plan has to be submitted, we have some concrete things that we're moving forward, and those things can be placed into this plan as well for the Delaware County Board of Supervisors to support if they choose via resolutions that sent on up to civil service and the governor's office and whatnot. But yeah, important point and really a key when it comes to diversifying the workforce and dealing with the hiring and retention of appropriate police officers.
Yeah. Yeah.
Are there any other suggestions before we do a timeline here for the rest of what the future is on this? So what I'm thinking is if we send out the survey tomorrow and have it back with a deadline of February 2nd, what is your availability for another Zoom meeting on February 10th at 11 a.m.? Is that possible for the majority of you?
Yes.
February 10th, it's a Wednesday at 11 a.m.
It's not good for me.
It does work for me.
So we have Board of Supervisors and Finance.
No, we only have one meeting, Bud, in February, and that is at the end of the month.
Okay, I just don't have a calendar in front.
Yeah, February 24th.
Okay.
I'll be at work, but I may be able to make something work. No guarantees.
I'm available on the 10th.
Yeah, I have a prior commitment on the 10th, February 9th, 10th, and 11th.
Is Friday better for everyone?
Afternoon. I have a radio show until noon.
How about Friday the 12th at 1 o'clock?
That'll work.
That's fine.
Good for me.
Yeah, I might
I'm
be able
available.
to do that too.
All right, and let's change that from the 10th to Friday, February 12th at 1 o'clock. And Jess and Amber will set that up, another Zoom meeting. So by then we'll have the survey back and the results tabulated so everyone can have that. As soon as that's available, I will get it out to the entire committee. So what I'm thinking is we have to have this done really by the end of February. We have to have it presented to the Board of Supervisors. And based on when our meetings are held, I would like to have the plan completed somewhere around mid-February. And then back to you by that time, so you have a good week to review the plan. We can make some final touches on it, comments. And then I'd like to have the final plan sent out to the Board of Supervisors by February 22nd. In order for the board to act on this, I would have to schedule a public hearing in March, but we'd have to do it on February 24th.
Yeah, and Tina, I just wanted to, I've seen this in the executive order. We do have to have that public forum and feedback on the plan itself, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
And we will. We'll
just
have
want to make sure that happens.
a public hearing on it.
Okay.
Yes. But I would have to schedule that at a Board of Supervisors meeting for the 24th. We'd have to introduce it on February 24th in order to have a public hearing on March 10th. We are fortunate where we do have 2 board meetings in March. But as we move along, I'll keep reminding everyone of the dates. But that's what I'm hoping for anyway. But for sure, if we can have the survey ready and sent out tomorrow with a deadline, having it returned on the 2nd. And then we can have the next committee meeting on Friday, the 12th at 1 o'clock.
Okay.
Any objections to that?
No.
Okay. Perfect. Does anybody have anything else they want to share or bring up?
I'm looking forward to the survey. That's
Great.
going to tell us a lot.
Great.
Yeah, Tina, there was just one more thing that I had. So thank you everyone for responding to the email I sent out last week regarding the current state of unrest, and thank you, Craig, for making your public statement. So I do want to thank everyone for that. I just want to point out here, to anyone listening as well, that one of the big goals of this committee is to help build that relationship with our local law enforcement, with our county law enforcement, and it's important just to underscore the fact that we are very much in this for everyone in Delaware County, right? We're not focused on just one population that we're trying to build this relationship for. So, that really is our goal. I just want to, make that statement, and thank you all for your feedback and help with that. So, let's keep up the work, and, moving forward, I'm very excited to be working on this.
Great. Thank you, everyone. Have a nice rest of your afternoon.
Thank you.
You too.
Thank you.
Thank you. Be safe, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Tina?